Hey fellas, want to show you this real quick. What I got here is the steering shaft out of Super Trooper. I just pulled it out. It's looks like a typical 34-year-old steering shaft, but surprisingly it's actually nice and tight. It's not floppy or anything like I thought it might be. But all the play comes here in this rag joint. But what I'm doing, and Rod's the one who turned me on to this, so I got to give him credit for that part. What I got is a knuckle off eBay. I think it was like 25 bucks or so. What you do is you take and cut the rag joint end off, and you mill the end of the steering shaft, and you try to get it so your U-joints are kind of aligned together, so everything works out that way. It ain't gonna be so critical on a shaft like this where you don't have a lot of speed with it, but it just works out better and probably smoother. So what I did, mill this down on each side so it's a flat, because this is called a double D end. I know I use double D and floppy in the same video, but anyway, what I'm getting at is you got to mill this down a little bit. And I say mill because it sounds fancy, but all I did was use a cutoff wheel, cut on each side, just cut a little sliver off, and then use the grinder to finish it so it's flat and until it fits. And what I'm going to do is weld a bead around here and get rid of these two set screws on so I have more clearance. I don't need the set screws once I weld it. And then you got a little set screw here that goes onto your steering rack. What I did was I got a used Flaming River rack from the guy over Pensacola we normally buy our junk from. But the boots were all dried up, so I got these off of eBay, and it actually feels like rubber, not the plastic kind of stuff like what comes on the eBay racks. I mean the Flaming River racks. So you get those. Get this, you got a nice manual rack. What I'm doing with the power steering setup that I had on Super Trooper is going on to the Dugan wagon, and I know every time I see Rod, he's asking what's going on with the Dugan wagon. People are bugging him about it. What's going on is it's in the lineup. It'll be after I get the black car going, which should be in March. I'm hoping everything goes right. I just recently, this last weekend, I got a set of heads for it. I got a set of twisted wedge heads, so I've got the short block ready, the cams in it. I've got a Performer RPM or a Performer intake to put on it. What I'll probably do is just use the Performer RPM. I want to try to make as much torque as possible because it's kind of heavy, and I think I can still do that with the Performer RPM. It's a second gen, so the upper is a lot better than the first gens, and it should make some good power. I got a 373 gear for it, and I might try to pilfer one of Rod's 410s when he upgrades one of his to put in there. I think it'd work a lot better. And speaking of cutoff wheels, you always got to use eye protection. But another thing that I hadn't considered before until I've started reading up on these. A lot of guys buy these and they'll buy them in a pack. You know, the actual guys, the guys that have shops and stuff where they use a lot of these, they'll buy them in a pack of 10 or 20, whatever, and they take and throw away the top one and the bottom one because they just get beat up in shipment. So, and they also hang them on a hook like this. I had always kept mine in drawers before, and they would get, you open and close the drawer, the thing bounces around, gets nicks in it and chunks taken out of it and scratches on the front. All that stuff can make it less stable. When it starts spinning at higher RPMs, especially if you got a chunk taken out of it, once you hit it to metal or whatever you're cutting, it can fly apart. And I know y'all have heard guys happen to them. Our very own Kevin had that issue with his. So I put it on the hook, and that way, if I do get a chunk out of it, I'll get rid of it. So that's all. Later, fellas.